right, so today what we're gonna do is take our mug bodies that we made last week, the nice leaf print on the outside of it with a bottom properly connected, and we're gonna make this into a mug. And the difference between what we have here and a mug is just that this is just it's a relatively unfinished cup. We need a handle on here, and we need to just sort of like refine a couple of things about this cup that'll make it a little bit easier to use as something that you would want to drink out of, because that's what mugs and cups are for. There are basically three places where we really need to put a lot of attention in the finishing quality of any cup, of any mug. And that is where it will come in contact with other things. And one of those things is you, the user, that is going to both hold and drink out of this mug. The other is the table or surface that it sits on. So let's start with that. If you put a mug down on a nice coffee table or any sort of finished wooden surface, and it's not nice and smooth on the bottom, and you drag it in place, it's gonna scratch. So all we have to do to sort of finish this up, this one's actually relatively smooth, but just let's pretend it's not. We just very quickly smooth out any little, you know what I'm talking about, little sharp spots, anything that doesn't look quite finished. You can also take your finger and just kind of burnish the outside lightly, and that's going to make a nice smooth surface that will just glide over the glass countertop or expensive coffee table in the living room. Now, the other things that need to be refined, like I mentioned before, are the rim where you drink out of the cup and the handle by which you hold it. It doesn't have a handle yet, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about this rim. This thing it's just the way that I left it when I cut it with the knife. And what that leaves is this flat, kind of clunky looking rim, the very top edge. And what I want to do to make that more usable is to take my pinchers here, and I'm just going to lightly pinch the rim all the way around. And what I'm really trying to do is sort of round it over. Take these corners down, this sharp corner here, sharp corner on the outside. I'm just trying to kind of round those over a little bit so that they're more comfortable in your mouth, because you put the thing in your mouth to drink out of it. So it better be comfortable. And then once you're done pinching, you can kind of go back like you did with the bottom and sort of burnish it with your fingertip or your thumb or whatever. I would not use a sponge unless it was in really rough shape. Sponging with water can take really pronounced imperfections down, which is a very useful thing. But it can also tend to bring little bits of this aggregate that's in the clay called grog, can bring it to the surface, which creates somewhat of a rough surface sometimes. So I tend to shy away from finishing the rim with a sponge. So, get it to where it's sort of nice and rounded looking, looks much more comfortable to drink out of. And the last thing we're gonna do is put a handle on this. And the handles are relatively simple. We're gonna take, not a lot of clay, honestly. Doesn't require a lot of clay to make a handle. A little handful, that's plenty, like this. So we'll use this to make the handle. We have to prepare the body of the mug first. And the way we do that is super simple. I'm gonna pick an area to put the mug. To put the handle. I don't want to put the handle over here. And the reason is that it's opposite the seam. And this seam, you're definitely not going to drink out of the seam. So it only makes sense to put the handle somewhere near the seam. You can put it right on the seam, you can put it to the left, you can put it to the right, or your other left and your other right. And that leaves, so like if I put it over here, I got all this area around here of nice rounded drinking rim that I can guzzle my coffee or whatever out of without having to worry about this big lump of clay being in my mouth trying to sip. So I'm gonna choose let's see, there's no real right answer, but I'm gonna put this one here. So score it real nice, and then choose, you have to decide how big you want this handle. And you can't score right at the rim. You have to score down at least about an inch. And I won't go into why exactly, but you need to trust me on this. Don't score and attach your handle right at the rim. It'll break it. It'll crack the rim. Please just believe me. So once you've got this scored, this is where the top of the handle will be attached, and it'll look kind of like this, and then attach farther down here. So I usually like a 3-finger handle, something in that range. So I'm gonna just kind of, estimate about that far down, and I'm making sure to put it directly below. I'm looking at it from above, obviously. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm putting the score marks for the lower portion of the connection of the handle directly below. I don't want it off to one side or the other, because then the handle is going to be all crooked and weird looking and not as comfortable to hold. So once I get to here, it's going to make just the right size handle. I'm going to apply some water to those score marks. And now the mug is prepped for the handle. So I'm gonna just set that to the side for now, and I'm gonna start making the actual handle. And this one's super simple. We're actually gonna make handles out of coils. There's 1,000,001 different ways to make handles. This one is particularly simple, so I hope you all appreciate that. You're gonna take your ball of clay, you're gonna start coilifying it, rolling it down like this. Once you get it, about that big, you're gonna put it on the table, roll it out. I'm not particularly worried about it sort of squaring off like this and having flat sides, because I'm actually gonna do that to it once I'm done rolling it. So if it starts to develop that along the way, that's really not that big of a deal. So I know this is plenty long. It's got a wider edge and a narrower edge. And what I'm gonna actually do is make this a little wider and this a little narrower even, by taking the flat part of my palm and just really gently kind of flatten it, flip it over, flatten it like this. And that's going to be about the proportions of width to thickness that I want for this. And you may also notice it's a little wider on this end than this end, and that's intentional as well. You want for the bottom to be a little narrower than the top, and probably even a little thicker at the top than at the bottom. So this is ready to kind of trim off and prepare to attach. So the last thing I'm gonna do to sort of prepare the surface of this is, since my clay is just a touch dry, If I bend this too aggressively, it's gonna crack. So what I'm gonna do is just put a little moisture into the surface by wiping it down with a sponge, both sides. And that's gonna soften that appearance just a little bit and make it look a little more uniform. And then I'm going to, this is the top, this is gonna attach, this thicker end here is gonna attach up top here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it to have a wedge shape on the end. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna take my knife or needle tool. You guys all have needle tools at home, so I'm gonna do it with a needle tool. I'm gonna cut it, here we go, at an angle, like that. Okay, you see what I mean by wedge shape, like this? This is pretty important. It's gonna attach like that. And so now it's ready to score. Add a little water to it, and I'm gonna attach it. Now, the way you attach it is important. You're gonna hold it with one hand like this, dangling, with the top attachment point dangling to the bottom. And I'm going to press it into place like this. And you can see how that wedge shape really kind of plays into the way that it fits nicely against the handle body or the mug body. And I'm going to gradually press it into place and kind of smooth it down. And you may be able to see the excess moisture squeezing out from between the two pieces, so that you can see a little better. And I'm just sort of pressing it into place. I'm not squishing very much with each little press. And you may even want to like support it a little on the inside as you do that. This mug is pretty firm at this point, which is good. So I'm not really worried about it collapsing just by pressing on the outside like this, but if yours is softer than this, you may want to just support it on the inside as you press from the outside. Anyway, this is attached fine enough at the top. What I'm going to do at this point is support the handle with my thumb, and I'm going to allow this to sort of bend a little at a time to the point where it creates a nice like loop shape. And I'm gonna attach the bottom here. Now, this one just happened to kind of work out so that it's the right length, but maybe yours is a little on the long side. If it dangles way down here, you pinch off the extra and you just press the bottom into place. Now, I'm obviously not trying to press it in all at once because that's going to collapse in the side of the mug. You want to do that gradually, like this. And I like making little finger marks like this because it lets the world know that a human being was involved in the production of this mug. It was not made by a machine. And you can see there's not a ton of distance between the handle and the body of the mug. Just enough to kind of get my hand in there. If you attach your handle top and bottom and it's hanging way out like this and it can't quite hold its weight, it's too long. What you need to do is unattach the bottom, line it back up so that it's closer to the body of the mug, rip off the excess, and then attach it again. This is basically what we're shooting for. If you want to add a small thumb divot, which is a nice addition to a mug, makes it kind of comfortable to hold, you can take your needle tool or your handy dandy scoring tool, score right at the top of the handle, add a little water, and then I just like to simply make a ball like this, press my thumb into it, it is a good idea to give a little score right there and then press it into the handle. Not super hard. You're not trying to pinch the handle thinner because that'll mess up this nice curve you've got. But this just gives you kind of some place to put your thumb. Looks sort of nice and finished at this point. And this is what you want. Something with a nice graceful curve. If it's got all kind of herky-jerky angles and weird sort of shape to it, try again. There's no shame in practicing a couple of handles before you actually attach one. But this is what you're shooting for. This is actually it's a little crooked, but that's fine. This is straight enough. So I hope you guys come up with a really nice solution for your handles, and I look forward to seeing them.